fourth graders, we are going to continue on with our desert landscape. Last week we were primarily drawing with pencil. Some of you might have gotten to the point where you were using a skinny Sharpie and a regular Sharpie to start tracing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about value and how we can add value. A lot of times when we think about value or shading, we think about this type where we are blending with pencil lead and making it look like it has lights and darks and shadows. I will demonstrate this, and I have some tools for us. Because we are heavily using the skinny Sharpie and the regular Sharpie, I did want to mention stippling, cross-hatching, and hatching. So stippling is where we create value by having small little dots. The closer the dots, the darker the value. Hatching is lines going parallel, and then again, closer the lines, the more our eye kind of sees that as kind of a shadow. And then cross hatching is parallel lines just like this, except going kind of both directions. So cross hatching. I'm going to incorporate some of that with my Sharpie use. And you can see I started doing some hatching in the mountains. The reason why I want you to kind of consider this, fourth graders, is that it creates kind of a fun texture. That also helps kind of push the idea of value. So here I am really gently adding the stippling. I don't want to ruin the tip of the Sharpie, but I'm adding just some small stippling dots to create a shadow for this cactus, which also makes a nice sandy texture in this desert landscape, which is kind of a nice bonus. I can add a little bit all around. Now up here are some examples of hatching. I'm going to go and add some of that in some of the rocks that I've drawn because that gives it a nice form. So just on one side to make a little bit of a shadow, I can add some hatching or maybe cross-hatching lines. So just a reminder that we're using a regular Sharpie to trace over all of our things like landscape lines or any of our big cactus that are in the foreground and near us. Now if you have small things like this bird, I used the skinny Sharpie to trace over that so that I didn't lose any of the details. And I also used the skinny Sharpie in the faraway mountains or some of my smaller cactus, as well as adding all of my little prickles with the skinny Sharpie. Going to use the skinny Sharpie to do some stippling, hatching, and cross-hatching throughout my picture to add a little bit of value and texture. However much you want to add is up to you. We will also add some value with shading. All right, so I'm happy with how that's looking. Again, I'm doing nothing to the sky. We're going to do that another day, but I am happy with my cross-hatching, hatching, and stippling. So all of my pen work is done. Do that all first before you add any shading. Now, when we're shading today, and by shading I mean with the pencil lead, what we're going to use is you can use a shading pencil. I've got a couple different kinds, and so I might have one kind at one building and another kind at another building, but they're very similar. These are graphite drawing pencils. Now, a regular pencil is a graphite pencil, but this one is a 4B, and this one's an ebony pencil, which is about a 4 or 6B too. So pencils range in hardness to softness. If it said something like 4H, then it would be a really hard pencil lead and it would not be good for shading. But the B means it's a soft pencil lead, and the higher the number, the softer it is. So here are two very soft, good shading pencils. And the reason why we want nice, soft pencil lead is that it will spread smoother and it won't create like pencil lead. We do not want to totally fill in our cacti. We don't want to lose all of our details, but I might on one side of my cactus. Notice how I've been kind of giving a little bit of a shadow just on one side of things. So maybe my sun is shining on this side of the cactus. So on this side, I can use the side of the pencil lead, and I'm not drawing with like the tip. I'm using the side, and I'm not pressing super hard, but you can see it's kind of making it kind of dark. This is going to be my darkest value, and I'm not going to color the whole thing, because then once I have some graphite put down on one side of my shapes, notice I'm keeping it all on this particular one, I'm keeping all on the left hand side. Then I can come in with another tool called a tortillon. Now this is just really a rolled up piece of paper, guys, but it's rolled up into kind of a point, and then we use this to blend. So I can go over my pencil lead. It doesn't color anything in, it just blends out the graphite that's already there. So it kind of makes it softer, and it kind of becomes kind of a little bit more of an ombre. So then I get to create the dark value and then the medium and light values just with this tool. And some people will use a pencil, or some people will use their finger, or they'll use like a paper towel. A paper towel works pretty good, except it's not super skinny like this, so you can't get into those little grooves. But the reason why your finger does work, but the thing is, if you rub with your finger to smear the pencil lead, the oils from your fingers will make the pencil lead stick to the paper. So you can see I went outside the lines a little bit there. So I can very easily go and erase that, or bring back a highlight on something with an eraser, because I used this tool. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add a little bit of shading in all of my cactus, and maybe in a couple of the areas where I have most of my cross hatching and stippling.